higher than a steeple, make you feel like there's no equal. God, body power's my temple, still throw it up like power to the people. You know how we do, started off with a thought and a vision. My mom became my own powerful religion, still gotta carry that tradition. And that's 16, still be the prime out of 16.
Good morning, good afternoon, and Happy New Year. The client I'm treating in this vlog number 3 is Josh, who we previously saw in vlog number 1. With Josh, we went through some phase 1 local strategies, which looked at treating the affected tissue, which for him was the anterior aspect of his shoulder, quite deep in there, when he was doing exercises such as a bench press and shoulder press. So a lot of compound lifting, heavy lifting for him there. So yeah, we use things like mobilisation, soft tissue treatment in the anterior shoulder to help release some of that stress and hopefully brings back some space in that subacromial arch, which helped short term, but we knew that wasn't going to be enough, so we had to look globally. So phase 1 global, we looked at more of a global screen. Using different types of movements, we found that limited mobility in the thoracic spine could have then been leading to limited motion in the shoulder when it's doing these movements, therefore closing that space in the subacromial arch. We then used certain movements to increase that space in the thoracic region, bringing back authentic motion of the thoracic spine meant that we could then bring back authentic motion of the shoulder, thus to reduce amount of pain. For this part of the vlog, we're moving on to phase 2, global and local. In phase 2, local, we want to look at increasing the tissue resilience, bringing it from a least stress to most stress, and I'll be explaining in the video. And then in the phase 2 global, we want to look at, phase 2 local, we want to look at improving the tissue resilience again, strengthening the specific area. So we're going to look at a lot of different shoulder exercises, shoulder strengthening exercises, can help build up that shoulder and stop the pain coming back.
It's power just to achieve big dreams. Every bar undressed gets felt. There's power in words, express yourself. Brian, there's no need to introduce myself, cause that's that.
So here we are with Josh in phase 2 global. We're going to look at integrating movement back in the thoracic spine and shoulders. By doing this, we're going to do movements which bring the body through least stress to most stress, and then we can manipulate variables after that to add load to the body. So what we're going to do with Josh is we're going to get him to just face the wall over there. Sit and take a step back. Okay, so what we need to do, Josh, is just take an anterior step with your right foot. Have your arms out in front of you and just bring them up for me. Okay, and step back. And there go. Okay, so what we see here, so if you just stay there, Josh, so what we see with Josh is we're getting the anterior step, but we're lacking the motion through the thoracic here, so we're not extending as much as we can. So what we need to do is just tell Josh that we want the arms in a bit more, and up, and bring your chest up as you do it, but keep looking forward. So as we can see here, we've created this extension right through the thoracic spine. So if you give me just a couple of reps of that, please. And to increase that extension of the lumbar spine, what we can do with Josh is we can get him just to step a little bit further. Stepping further will increase the posterior tilt of the lumbar spine, therefore creating more room for extension in the thoracic and cervical. So if you just take a bit of a larger step forward, and then come up with your arms. Good. So there we go, we've created more space, and we've integrated movement now from the thoracic extension, which we're limiting, and pain in shoulder range of motion that we had before. When we did it before, we just didn't use any weight, we just had the anterior step with the hands overhead, really emphasising that thoracic extension and shoulder mobility. And Josh felt no pain in that, and that was absolutely fine, so therefore we can progress. And what we're going to manipulate is a load on Josh. So we're going to put these dumbbells here, the old iron balls, 1 kilos. You don't have to go very heavy with these because of the moment, the long extensor. The weight should feel quite heavy for Josh there, so you just hold with both hands, Josh. And we're going to do the same movement. So if you face that wall for the camera, and take a step back, right. So take an anterior step for me, Josh. Keep your thumbs facing towards the ceiling, and come up with your arms. Good. And back. And forward again. So how's that feeling for you, Josh?
Yeah, really good.
Cool, so if you just hold that for me. Right, we've, as you can see with Josh, is that he's limited his step forward. So we might want to look at extending that. And also his elbows here are quite bent, so we want to just extend the elbows more. And then as you come through, Josh, I want you to push your chest up and keep your eye line facing forward. There we go, so as we can see, we've now extended the extension through the thoracic spine, and the range of motion in the shoulders here is pretty much full. We maybe want to get a bit more elbow extension, but apart from that, that looks pretty damn good. So, with the aim of phase 2, we want to improve sequencing and make the tissue more resilient. We use triangulation to gradually increase stress to the injured tissue or structure. For this treatment, we use an anterior step with a bilateral overhead reach. The anterior step promotes a posterior pelvic tilt in the back leg of gait, which helps lumbar extension and therefore thoracic extension as a result of the lumbar movement. The overhead reach also displays a full range of motion at the shoulder, which was originally onset with pain, and it also helps with the thoracic extension as we have the scapulars winging round, allowing room for the thoracic spine to extend. The point of this exercise is to reinforce normative motion in a pain-free environment, going from least stress to most stress. We manipulated external load, which creates more internal load to the structure of the shoulder. We only used light dumbbells, but still had a positive effect, increasing stress to that local area of the shoulder and bringing about normative, authentic extension of the spine.
And you either can or you can't.
So now we're moving on to phase 2, local of the treatment. And this is where we want to strengthen the local tissue. And with Josh, he had an anterior shoulder problem. This exercise that we're going to do is specifically for the anterior shoulder, but we're looking at posterior deltoids and the scapular movement around the thoracic wall, which is an area that we found at the start was fairly tight, then we freed it up. So now we want to strengthen that strong position by doing these cable rear flies. Okay, so Josh, if you come and hold on. So what we need to do is just grab the left one with your right hand and the right one with your left hand. And I want you to keep your arms as straight as possible, maybe a slight bend in the elbow. I want you to then just pull the bands back and extend through the thoracic as you come back. Good. So not so much extension there. Good. And when you come forward, I want you to try and concentrate on letting the scapula come around the thoracic wall. So if we can see that scapular movement, so that's back and then it's around as the thoracic extends. So as we can see with Josh here, we've got a lot of involvement of the posterior deltoids. What they're going to do is they're going to help protract the shoulders back, therefore leading to a decrease in the pain people get in the anterior shoulder and increasing the space in the subacromial arch.
In that power.
So this exercise that we're doing with Josh, we're looking at using the Swiss ball and shoulder movements with a stable scapula to help strengthen the shoulder joint itself. So what we're going to get Josh to do is he's going to get set, feet shoulder width apart, and I want him to protract his shoulder, his scapula back, okay, and then he's going to just use the ball and just do very slight circle movements.
Like this, Joe?
Yeah, perfect. Using these movements, these very small circles, uses to define control muscles of the shoulder, stabilizers, which help keep that joint very secure. Yeah. And using the scapula being set in a protracted position, it can ensure that the posture is good in Josh there.
It's getting quite tired quite quickly.
Yeah, okay, we'll rest. Josh found that one quite easy last time, so therefore we can progress the exercise. For the progression with Josh, I want him to do the exact same position, so feet set shoulder width apart. I'm going to get that protraction of the scapula, and we're going to start now with bigger circles. Now so if you just do bigger circles, so see that was quite unstable there, so we want to keep this strong position in the shoulder, that's it, and we just want to do controlled circles. Using the bigger circles, we'll still use defined stabilising muscles, but we're also now looking at more deltoid and the anterior aspects of the shoulder to help control this movement through. If Josh then found this too hard, and even the one before too hard, we can then just make the movements more simpler. So a regression for this exercise would be, instead of doing circles, I just want Josh to just slowly go up and down, still keeping that strong scapular position, which is good, and then left and right. And right. Good.
Some punch the clock, put work the blocks, either way they putting in hours. When I was spit in that booth, it's more relevant cause it's truth. Inspire the youth, at the same time got my fist in the air.
So for this next exercise with Josh, we're going to do the dumbbell shoulder press. We're going to do it unilaterally, so it's more of a stabilising movement. And we're going to do it standing, so Josh has to use strong posture, good core strength, and good thoracic stability to enable the movement. So as we can see, Josh is just pressing the dumbbell overhead.
Down to the hairs on your neck, to the powder on your fingers.
You're just mentally.
So with Josh, we're going to progress exercise. As the weight we used last time was 8 kilograms, and it was too easy. So here we have Josh using the 22 kilos, and he's doing the exact same motion. He has to keep a strong core there. So for the phase 2 local tissue resilience and strength, I used 3 exercises, which are the rear cable flies, Swiss ball wall control, and single arm dumbbell shoulder press. We looked at strengthening of the local area. In this case study it was the shoulder, but not all the exercises were specifically orientated around the shoulder. Has a lot of strength work on the shoulder joint itself. It's quite a small, unstable joint, can irritate it quite often. Instead I chose to look more globally, so looking at introducing core strength, scapulo-thoracic rhythm, and normative ranges of the spine to help with these movements. All the exercises chosen can be progressed and regressed depending on the client's ability, and it's also very important that the client should never be in pain for these strengthening exercises, as it's not the point in doing them. The point is to build up the resilience, not just add a load of load to this client and bring on the possibility of more pain. So therefore it's better to be slow and steady with these, build up the strength until you can progress.
Steeple, make you feel like there's no equal. God, body power's my temple, still throw it up like power to the people. You know how we do. Started off with a thought and a vision. My mom became my own powerful religion. Still gotta carry that tradition. And that's 16. Still.
So for Josh in this vlog, we really wanted to sort of integrate some movement. So we used the anterior step with the overhead reach to really emphasize that thoracic extension. The anterior steps helps us get that posterior tilt, which then promotes the extension of the rest of the spine, going from lumbar, thoracic, and even cervical. We coupled that with the bilateral overhead reach because they sort of move together. With extension, we then can free up the space in the subacromial arch, allowing for a greater range of motion. Josh was able to do this fine, absolutely pain-free. That's why we introduced the dumbbells, to add a bit of resistance to the deltoids and the fine stabilizer of the shoulder. And again, that was pain-free, so that's an improvement from when we first saw Josh. We then moved on to some various different exercises. So our first exercise was the cable rear flies. These are quite a hard exercise to do, and it requires a lot of control, especially through that thoracic region, the scapular control there. And although this is a part of the phase 2 local,
We wasn't so local to the anterior shoulder, but still the shoulder and the thoracic and scapulothoracic movement nonetheless. If you can control this motion, really let the scapula come around the wall cage and then have the ability to protract that with resistance, then it's definitely a good area to build strength on. Building strength in that posterior spine will help with things such as posture and keeping that subacromial space, that supraspinatus impingement, down to a minimum. It also is a good workout for the posterior deltoids, which help control shoulder motions respectively. The second exercise we moved on to was the Swiss ball against the wall, using a protracted shoulder and very fine movements there. I use this because being able to, again, protract that scapula back on the thoracic wall and having the ability to extend through the thoracic spine while using fine controlled motions through the shoulder is a good skill to have as well. It promotes joint health and strength, especially for this anterior aspect of the shoulder, having the supraspinatus help with flexion as well as the anterior deltoids. To progress that, we looked at larger circles. This requires more strength from the larger muscles, such as the middle and anterior deltoid, but it also makes it harder for you to keep that stable position with the protracted scapula, which Josh demonstrated that he could do. And a regression from this, so if your client's finding it too hard, we just basically simplified the movements. So we went up and down with the arm and left to right. These are very simple movements to remember in the mind, which allows you to not lose focus on the task that you've been given. Once you've been able to do that fine, you can then progress to the circles. And the last exercise we gave Josh was the standing shoulder press single arm. I chose this because there's a lot of variations with shoulder press. People use barbells, use 2 dumbbells, they sit down. But with the standing, we get good posture of the body. We have a neutral hip alignment. It promotes the extension of the thoracic spine in order to stay strong. It uses core strength to keep everything tight around the pelvis, keep them ribs down, stop them from flaring, and unilaterally just brings in a bit more control there. We progress this just by upping the load on Josh. More load means more recruitment of the muscles and more stability, more core strength. A regression, you could lose some weight or even introduce bilateral dumbbells, which would help improve things such as balance and all them factors there. I mean, these are good exercises for Josh to use outside of the gym or outside of the treatment, so when he's in the gym next. But it's good that we've now created space for him to move into. We've integrated certain movements using triangulation, and the strengthening of the shoulder is now acceptable, and building on that muscle, building on that good posture, that strong, tall posture that he's got now, will help reduce the pain and stop it coming back.